Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abbey, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abbey,
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abby podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Rightio. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dear Abby. I am your host today and always. Let me adjust it. Okay. Whew. Today is one of those days where I just want to punch everything and everyone. So welcome back to Dear Abby. Today we have a little bit of a different type of episode, but I'm very excited about. It's not that different, but it's a little bit different. And I feel like I'm about to be sick. I went over to my sister's house for literally not even 10 minutes. I didn't know that she was feeling sick at the time. That would have been nice to know. Somehow in the span of, a couple minutes of being in their house, I'm now hopefully not going to get sick, but probably going to get sick. So that's a little bit of a bummer because who likes to get sick, I feel very lucky to not have been sick for a little bit, but I do get sick very often. I don't know why that is, and I think I just need to work on, I think it's my microbiome or something, because I don't have a very good gut. I don't have good gut health. If anyone has experienced SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, but I was diagnosed with that a long time ago, and it's come back. I don't know if it ever leaves, but I've been feeling it lately, and again, my body feels like it's breaking down. I've said that a bit ago, but I feel like that again. However, I am in more of an angry part of my womanly phase. Yeah, every second I feel like punching something, but my heart longs to be soft and sweet and find the beauty in life. But everything else wants me to be an absolute heinous rager, anger monster. A tornado of anger swirling about. A tornado of anger swirling about. That's a reference That's a reference to Kicking and Screaming, by the way. That's a really funny movie. I love that movie. I have 20 different appointments coming up because I haven't gone to the dentist in a while. I haven't gotten a physical. I think I have a hernia, minor hernia, which I think just heals on its own, but I don't know. I can't work out without it starting to hurt, so I just thought I probably should go get that checked out. Let's not dwell on that for too long, though, because then I'm starting to get angry again. I feel the anger in my heart and in my head. It just feels, I just want to cry, but I can't. I want to cry to get out I feel overwhelmed, but nothing's happening, so it's just stagnant. It's driving me nuts. I think I just need to punch something or scream, and then do a mindful practice, write everything down that's making me mad, and hopefully I can feel better. So I'm sorry I'm bringing angry energy today. I'll relax. Thank you for loving me anyways and being patient with me. Okay, great. So this week we are doing pretty much just an advice segment. So obviously we do a Dear Abby mostly every episode at the end. But I thought it would be nice to do just a full episode answering your guys' questions. But first, I did want to share a couple stories from this week and a little bit of a life update and dubs and L's still. My dub for this week is that I've been trying to be more social, so I've gone to church events and other stuff like that. I've forced myself to. This isn't just the past week, this is just the past couple of weeks combined, but not that much more social, but compared to what I was doing before, a little bit more social. And yesterday this is also maybe partly an L, but yesterday we went to this event. We went to a little church meetup event thing, and there was not that many people there, but we were at the beach. It was a beach bonfire, and it was, during sunset, and everyone is young adults. So we're all, 20 to 30 years old, just a little hangout. And I was with my boyfriend and one of his friends. everyone was swimming. They didn't get in the water, but everyone else, not everyone else, but a lot of people were swimming, and it looked nice. And also I really had to go pee. So I got in the water, and the waves were very choppy, and normally you can see where they break, so you can kind of plan where you're going to stand, when you should run up and dive, when you should kind of take a step back, so then you can just kind of jump over it. The waves are breaking in different places, and so I couldn't really gauge where the next wave was going to break. Anyways, did my business. Then I was like, oh, it just feels good in the water. It was actually pretty warm, and not for that reason. It just was generally a warm beach day. So I was near where a lot of the people were that I didn't really know, and with people I didn't really recognize that well. Maybe a couple people I recognized, but in the time they were just, everyone's in the water, everyone looks the same. Then I decided to come back in. Didn't really talk to anyone the whole time I was out there. Normally when I go to these events, I am proud of myself for just going. I am very comfortable sitting alone, and I think maybe people see that and they either think I'm being stuck up, which probably I am a little bit, but not in that way, just in like, I'm not putting in enough effort, and fair enough. But also maybe I look sad, or like I want someone to like, oh, I'm so quiet and lonely. Like, oh, I wish someone came and talked to me. But that's not like how I feel. I genuinely am. I'm very content. You know what I mean? I'm very content just sitting alone in those situations. That being said, I was in the water alone by everybody, but I didn't really talk to anyone. I already feel stupid. I'm like bobbing up and down in the water, kind of by myself. But you just feel stupid, Like, I don't know how to, like, just join a conversation. And I don't have a lot of energy to do that. So just imagine a group of people all having fun, splashing. Everyone's, like, having fun, making jokes, jumping at the same time over the waves, and in little groups. And I just, like, slowly and bobbing my way over to where kind of the bigger group is. And then I realized, you know what, I kind of just want to go in and get dry and stuff. Like, I feel kind of stupid. So then I start swimming back towards the shore. I get to where I stand up. Again, a group of people in the water, a group of people right by the shore. Not very far. Everyone could see me. So I was walking back up to shore. Group of people. Behind, in front. Walking up, realize I haven't looked back in a while to see what the waves are up to. I thought I was in a safe zone at that point. Turned around. Turns out I wasn't. The wave kind of crashes at the exact worst spot, and I was in the worst spot. The wave can do what it wants. It was me. It was my fault. I was in the wrong spot, not the wave. It's just right where it lands is where I was. So you just get stuck. It's like the strongest part of the wave, like, as it crashes. Unfortunately, that's where I was, and I could stand at this point, so I couldn't really duck. And I just had to try to jump over it, but I jumped. The wave caught me. I fall on butt. Water goes over my body. Can't breathe. I turn around to try to stand up. Another wave comes, hits me. I jerk forward, holding my swimsuit top and pulling my swimsuit bottoms to make sure everything was covered up. So in that moment, I was pretty embarrassed because I got tumbled by a wave in front of a lot of people. And then someone was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? I'm like, that made me feel worse. Very nice. I'm just kidding. But it did. It just, you feel stupid. I just felt so stupid. Also, before, like, I could get out of the water as a girl, you're like and a guy, I guess, but you don't have to check two places. As a girl, you're making sure your pants are okay and your shirt is okay or your top is okay. So you're having to, like, squat extra in the water to like, be sure you're okay to stand up and reveal yourself. Eventually, I got everything situated, stood up, walked back. I looked at Key and I said, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just go get the freaking towel. That was fun. That was a little bit of an L. I do have another story about getting pummeled by waves, but this had to do with my father. So my mom and dad came out to visit us here in Orange County. My dad is a really good swimmer. I think he surfed like once or twice when he was younger. And Keaton thought it would be fun and invited him to go surfing while they came to visit. My dad was kind of nervous. Like, I was kind of nervous. I get nervous when I go surfing. I've only been a couple times now, like twice. So I still feel like how it felt when I would be on like the block for swim team, and I feel like I have to go to the bathroom heavily. So he was like kind of excited to go, kind of nervous. Keaton was really excited, you know, just to hang out. Keaton was checking the waves to see if the waves were good. The waves were okay. And so they got everything together. We had all the stuff for my dad to be able to go. Then we get to the beach. My mom came. Eventually Chelsea and her family came. But by the time we got to the beach, the waves were like pretty big, significantly bigger than like what a beginner should be doing, and especially the conditions were just like not that good, and it was kind of choppy, and the waves they weren't like folding good or whatever but also the waves were just kind of big and dangerous for someone that's a beginner. So they told my dad he totally could go, but it's kind of dangerous, so they suggest him not going. And because, you know, he's not 20 anymore, he was like, I probably shouldn't go then. But he decided to go bodyboarding. He decided to go bodyboarding. So he left. We're like, hey, have fun, you know. So eventually, me, my sister, and my mom, and the kids were all just hanging out, relaxing. And I realized we haven't seen my dad in a while. And I'm like, is he okay? Like, where did he go? We were trying to find him up and down the beach, trying to find where he went, and we couldn't see him at all. And we're like, oh my gosh, okay. Not that we're worried, because my dad is a really good swimmer. And so I wasn't like worried about that, but it was just like, why can't we see him? So we come to the conclusion that he's probably fine and we move on. Don't worry about it. A couple minutes later, he walked up kind of like smiling. Like I was like, oh, like I'm sure he had fun or something. Then he tells us the story of how he almost died. He almost got knocked into the rocks, the jetties, I believe is what they're called. The big pokey rocks that the waves crash up onto. He almost got stuck between the wave and the rocks, but luckily he swam hard enough to barely get past it when the wave came. I mean, that's kind of just the story, but swam out there trying to catch a wave on the board. Tide came in very fast. Dad got scared. Dad kicked hard, was scared it wasn't hard enough. Wave about to crash. Dad kick harder, swim harder, panic and praying. He gets past the rocks just in time. So when the wave crashed, he didn't crash into the rocks, it just crashed over him onto the sand. He looks up, sees lifeguard. Lifeguard asks what he's doing. He says, just trying to catch a wave. Why? Lifeguard says, you need fins today. It's too dangerous without fins. Dad says, I had no idea. I'm not from here. Technically, he is from California, but hasn't been there in a long time. Doesn't surf. Doesn't see the beach every day. That's basically the story. He was telling us he was praying. He was like, I literally thought I was going to die. Meanwhile, my sister and my mom and me were just hanging out, eating cherries, grapes, chilling at the beach, while all the men fight for their lives in the waves. Pretty funny. Those are my stories that I wanted to tell from this week. Okay, so we're going to do a couple Dear Abbeys today, and that's going to be our episode. Also, before we get into Dear Abbeys, I know that my little outfit looks like a Christmas morning outfit, and I know, but I don't feel good, so I wanted to be comfortable in green pajamas. Here is the first one. This one's a little bit of a long one, so buckle up, people. Hello from Michigan. I'm writing in seeking advice on a situation with my boyfriend. We've been dating for a year now and have the happiest, healthiest relationship with each other. He's 29 and I'm 27. He has a newly built home in a cute little subdivision and recently asked me to move in with him. Yay! I felt so stupid saying that. We're so ready to take the next step and begin to blend lives. One unique thing about him is that he is divorced. He got married in 2021 and was with his partner for 5 months before she cheated on him. The anger in my bones. It had gone on for a while and he eventually confronted her. He moved out 2 days later from their place at the time and the divorce was finalized and done with for a few years now. He went through plenty of therapy before we had met and is in a great place now. It's all in the past. Last I heard, she lives out of state now. During one of the more serious conversations a while back, I did ask if he still had items, memories stored away from that relationship, half asking out of curiosity, half asking to protect myself for an accidental jump scare if I ever come across anything. That's probably a smart move, honestly, because then you you know what you're dealing with, rather than like, yeah, it's better to come from his mouth than like to stumble upon stuff. He was honest and let me know that he had a box in his basement labeled the past. The past, all caps. That's kind of crazy. That has a bunch of memories and items from their time together, engagement, wedding photos, gifts, and even his old wedding ring. Although I didn't pressure him to, he did say he had planned to get rid of it sometime down the road. Last I knew, it was still down there. I have never seen the box myself, but I can't help but think about it every time we're downstairs. Now that we're living together, I've been thinking about it more, and it's starting to bother me a bit more. Just a feeling of icky energy. Would it be disrespectful to ask him if he could get rid of it, at least from our home? Or am I being insensitive? I have so much empathy for his situation and understand that it will always be a part of his past, but do you think the box should still be there? Felt like you were a good person to ask, as someone who has gone through a similar situation where there must have been all kinds of memories, keepsakes attached. Thanks, lady. Your Midwest girlies love the pod. First off, I think it's great that you're so understanding. So bravo to you. I think a lot of people, maybe would feel too insecure about being with someone who's divorced, or just like doesn't know how to wrap their head around someone who's been divorced and how to be with them. So I think, yeah, just the way you think about it is very mature. And kudos to you for being very understanding and patient. I coped with my divorce by keeping some things for a while, but I'm also the kind of person that wants to just purge everything and get rid of pretty much everything. There's a few photos on my phone that are from my wedding, but they're just of me and of like the venue and how pretty everyone looked and my bridesmaids, like those types of pictures. But that's just the way that I cope. Whether that's healthy or not, I don't really know. I think sometimes I disassociate from my past a little bit too much. I don't think that it's insensitive at all for you to ask him to maybe get rid of it, especially if you already wanted to. Maybe it would be helpful. This might be like not a good idea at all. I do think maybe you could do it with him if he wants support, or if he wants to feel like he's turning a chapter, or for some, there must be some emotional ties he has to that box, because why would you have it if you didn't? But I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but I do think eventually it is like, I would feel weird if my boyfriend had like a box of all of his ex-girlfriends, even not even ex-wives, but like ex-girlfriends and stuff like that. I'd be like, why do you still have those? It's time to move on. If it's been a couple years though, and now you're moving in, you're going to share that space, I 100% think it's okay to ask him to maybe get rid of it. And you can help him, or you can go through all of that stuff together, unless that sounds horrible to you. I don't know. Yeah, definitely tell him that it makes you feel weird. Ask him if you could possibly get rid of it, especially if it's just pictures of him and his ex-wife. I do feel like I understand it was like the past. And I'm not trying to change the past, but at the same time, that's not the present, and he should be focusing on what's in front of him. That's kind of how I feel. Sometimes go a little bit too far with that and just like act like that never happened, but I think there's like a middle ground that you can try to find. And I think for him, a good thing to do would be to make you feel more comfortable by getting rid of that stuff. I'm thinking how weird it would be if I had a box like under my bed or something that was called the past, and it was a bunch of pictures of me and my ex-husband. Like, that kind of makes me feel weird. Makes me feel kind of sick. And it might not even be that deep for him. He might just like, oh yeah, I just want to have pictures to remember. But you don't need a full box, you just need like one picture if you really want to remember. And maybe try to sell your old wedding ring. You don't need that anymore. You definitely don't need the wedding ring anymore. Get rid of that thing. I have my okay, that's actually hypocritical. I have my engagement ring, but I'm trying to sell it. And I need to buy like I need to get it, whatever it's called, where they look in to see what it is, and then they can tell you how much it's worth still and all of that stuff. So that's just been, I keep forgetting to get rid of it. That's just, I'm lazy and I don't want to have to go through all of the work. But I have no emotional ties to it. It's just a ring for me at this point. But like if I held that for like just so I can remember that I was married and who I was married to, that would be really weird. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful. Give you a little nudge if you feel bad asking him. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're his relationship. You're his priority. You can be understanding with also setting your own boundaries because it's your relationship. Okay. On to the next question.
Hi, this is
Paula, please give me a call back at 310-293-8030. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye.
How did they get my number? How did they get the Dear Abby number? Who did that? They played me like a fool. Okay, here's a real question. Dear Abby, I am 23 going through a divorce. I just listened to your divorce episode on what we said and found a lot of similarities in my situation. It's been really difficult for me to imagine trusting someone enough to get into a relationship again. It's still pretty fresh, and I understand these feelings are to be expected after everything I've gone through. However, I don't want to bring trust issues or abandonment issues to the table when I eventually re-enter the dating scene. I also don't want to be constantly comparing someone to my ex-husband, good or bad qualities, or feel like I have to retrain someone to be emotionally communicative since I feel like in my past marriage I helped my spouse a lot with that. I would love to hear about your experience learning to trust someone again and how you have navigated any feelings related to your divorce that have come up. So there's not like a one answer to this question because this is, I don't know, life is kind of complicated and a divorce can feel messy, and then a new relationship, there's not like a right answer to how to do the next relationship perfectly. Something that helped me was to just be super patient with myself and super patient with my brain, trying to be overprotective. And that protective mechanism, that those what ifs, it comes from a place of being so deeply hurt and doesn't want that to happen again. So to be super gentle and patient with that part of your brain, and what that looks like would be when those thoughts come up, to not further shame yourself, to say to yourself, oh, why can't I heal faster? And I should already be to the point where I'm not bringing this into my new relationship, all of that stuff. I'm probably biased because I got into a relationship pretty fast after my divorce and I'm still with him. But I think it's kind of inevitable that you bring some baggage into your relationship. So to speak on that part of not wanting to bring in past stuff, totally understandable, because it is not fair for you to put like your new relationship into the depths of your past and to project everything onto them, and to, when you look at them, you think of your ex, even though they're not even acting the same way, but if they have like, sometimes if my boyfriend had like a similar reaction to something or anything that could maybe relate back to my ex-husband, I would freak out and I would like just start to get really anxious and sometimes go silent, sometimes just like have to walk away. And I'm not proud of that, and I didn't love that part of our relationship, and that's my fault. I think that comparing good and bad qualities is definitely something that you can avoid. You might have thoughts every once in a while of that type of stuff, but if you do, I usually just say there's no possible way for me to know if he's like my ex-husband. I literally do not know. What I'm seeing so far, he's not. And I don't really bring this up to my boyfriend. Like, I don't talk to him about a lot of the things that I go through mentally. I don't really talk to my boyfriend about, just because that's a lot to put on him. So I either talk to my therapist, or I talk to my mom, or I just kind of write it out or think it out in my own head when I get really anxious, or if we like got in an argument or something and I feel extra anxious because it reminds me of my past, or I don't know. I try to process it to a point that I can be calm, but then I do invite my boyfriend to like help me and to be there for me, because I do want to build that trust with him and let him in to like those places, but not in a toxic or not in like an unhealthy projection way. It's more like, okay, I feel really anxious right now because of A, B, and C, and it's nothing to do with you. I just kind of need to sit here and cry for a little bit. If you want to hug me, that would be amazing. If you feel overwhelmed, you don't have to. Usually it ends with him just kind of holding me as I just cry, or I feel something really heavy or something. And that's been like one of my favorite parts of our relationship, because I think because of some of the things that I've experienced, I do have a lot of baggage, as you would say, and I've done a lot of work on it, but I still have so much more to go because that's life. You grow, you learn, you think you're healed, and it all comes back up. But it has been very healing to be with someone who is willing to be there for me and not taking everything personally. If I feel upset randomly and I don't take it out on him, but if I just explain, I feel really anxious right now, I don't really know why. He doesn't get offended. He's not like, oh, you're so dramatic all the time. Why can't you just like be happy all the time? He's very understanding and he's like, okay, that's fine. Like he doesn't take my feelings personally, which is amazing. And that's very helpful. You know, it's not something that you process overnight or even like within a year. I do feel like divorce sometimes takes a long time to fully process and move on fresh. I genuinely think it's a lie if people say that like in 6 months they were healed. I just don't think that's true. And maybe I'm biased because it didn't happen for me. Before me and my boyfriend got together, I had the exact same feelings and we were kind of dating, but we weren't like official. I just like, we hung out all the time. I told him, I was like, I'm so scared because you think so highly of me, but I'm so broken in certain places. And this isn't popular to say. And I feel like people might take this wrong way, which so be it. Maybe it was really selfish. But I was like, but I really want to be in a relationship with you and I'm willing to put in the work. I'm just asking that I kind of told him what he's getting into because he also knew that I had just been divorced and he knew how it all happened. I was very open and honest with him from the very get-go of everything I've been through. Not like trauma dumping, just like, hey, I'm pretty deeply hurt by this. This is very fresh. This is a fresh wound. And if we're going to be in a relationship, you're probably going to have to watch me break down sometimes. And I will do my best to not project it. I think because I was very aware of what could happen and how I could possibly treat him in a poor way, I think that helped me for times where I realized internally I was kind of projecting stuff onto him and I was able to kind of regroup, be alone. Alone time was very important for me, especially in the beginning of our relationship, because I got very anxious very fast. But I do think no matter what, even if you don't get in a relationship for like 20 years after your divorce, I personally think when you do get in a relationship again, those exact same triggers are going to come up and those exact same feelings are going to come up. Getting into a relationship with the intent of not trying to project anything, recognizing that you feel broken sometimes and that you might project stuff and, you know, all of this stuff that we do that's not great in relationships. I think just bringing awareness to that so that way you can get into a relationship, which is like, I feel like I've healed so much in my relationship just because I've learned how to make it work with someone and someone's learning how to make it work with me. And that's been very, very healing. So there's nothing wrong with getting into a relationship when you're not fully healed, because I don't think anyone really does that. Yeah, just be super patient with yourself for the ups and downs that you have. Be super transparent with whoever you're dating. You know, not first date, you know, tell them everything. But like if you're starting to get serious and you kind of feel like you could be exclusive soon or something, I would just let them know like, hey, look, this is my situation. Last thing I'll say is learning how to trust someone again is definitely the hardest thing. And I don't think I've really cracked that fully yet. It does get better. I know that for sure because I used to not feel like I can trust him at all. And I would try not to actually project that onto him because I would be like, okay, I think this is coming from my ex-husband, not this relationship, because he has not done anything that would betray my trust. But even if he did one tiny thing that was hurtful, internally I would feel like it would be blown out of proportion in my head. But again, I was aware that that was happening. And so I would not really say anything until I had calmed down internally and felt clarity. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell him that that was hurtful to me. But I don't think that was like the end of our relationship or the end of the world. I can still be sometimes hyper vigilant with things. And there's like a split moment where I think, okay, I could either react from a scared place of like, oh my gosh, what if? It could even be small things, and I'm really exposing myself right now, but I'm just trying to be honest about how trust issues do come up in relationships, whether you like it or not. It does happen. There's times where if he's listening to even a song and the album cover, it has like a girl on it, my brain sends off alarms. That's like, okay, if he's listening to the song, he's probably picturing the girl in the album. The girl in the album is pretty, so that means that he's attracted to her. So when he listens to the song, he's thinking of this girl, and what if he was like imagining being with this girl? And maybe that means that he's still open to like finding other girls attractive, and maybe he's looking at other girls on Instagram, and it's like, I'm not kidding, that's like how it goes from that there's a girl on the picture of the album of the song that he's listening to like he's cheating on me in a split second. It's scary because it feels very real in the moment. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's a good point. Not anymore as much, but those thoughts still happen years later. But anyways, when those thoughts happen and it starts jumping, there's still a moment where I can decide, okay, either I'm going to click into this and I'm going to take this route in my brain, or I'm going to ground myself and recenter and just in that moment be like, I trust him. I'm not listening to you. I trust him. And I trust myself. I trust my judgment. And I know my brain's anxious, rightfully so, because I've been burned in the past. And people do lie to me, and people have lied to me, but I'm going to choose to trust him. And that moment is always very freeing, and it's always very empowering, because maybe down the road, it's like maybe he was cheating on me, and, that sucks, but I don't want to lose my choice in being able to trust people and to trust myself. I don't want to lose that. If I were to be in a relationship again and someone were to cheat on me, it would be totally crushing. I'm not saying it wouldn't affect me. It would totally affect me, but we have the power to choose to trust, and it doesn't feel good in the moment. I will say it's very tempting to go and try to get like reassurance that nothing's happening and that he loves me and that he doesn't think of other women. So just know that it's possible to be in a relationship and still maybe have those fears, but also not have it control your actions and what you say and how you act to your relationship or your boyfriend or whatever. It takes a while. Okay, we're going to do one more. Okay, last one. Dear Abby, I recently lost my job via text due to them hiring too many people for the season. That's so annoying. This obviously has put me in a tough financial situation with having no source of income without warning, but I also feel like I'm stuck. I initially got this job because I knew the environment and the money was right. It's a serving job in my tourist-filled town, but I wasn't stuck with those nightmare customers there. My plan was to push myself and save over the summer, even though I hate serving, then find a place I can travel to and work there. So I'm left with finding some source of income, except I'm not passionate about any jobs, and it's difficult for me to make myself show up when I don't enjoy a job. I'd like to start my own business endeavor ideally, but that requires money, and I want to get out of this town. Would love to hear if you have any advice. For context, I'm a 22-year-old girl, and only business ideas are yoga instructing, since I could travel with that, and herbalism and natural health. Love you and the pod. Money's tricky, isn't it? I feel very similar in the sense where it's really hard for me to go to a job that I don't feel like is doing anything for me. So I think one mindset that I've started to adapt, because we have to do stuff we don't want to do for a while, sometimes a long time, sometimes a short time. One thing I've done to help with this is to have a goal to work towards, but also remind myself that this isn't forever. Because sometimes if we're in a job and we have no route or no way out and we're not planning for that, then it does feel very daunting. I think it's not even going to work that feels daunting. It's like the thought of, what if I'm stuck doing this forever and I can never get out? That's daunting. So I think making the distinction between, okay, is it actually daunting to go and actually do the work? Because normally when I get there, it's like, sometimes it lingers for a little bit, being like, ugh, I wish I could be doing something that I liked more. And then eventually it goes away and I just get to work and I just focus. So I think learning how to cope with that feeling and learning how to feel that dread, but then also being able to go to work, knowing that you have made a plan and you have a plan moving forward of how to get out of the town, how to go somewhere else, do something else. So I think definitely making a plan, a financial plan, figure out, okay, I have to grind for this long in this job. I'm not going to be excited to go to work every single day, but I can also try to have a good attitude, and good attitude just means I have to do this, so I might as well try to like not be as miserable and make myself more miserable. It's okay that the job that you're doing right now doesn't necessarily fulfill you, or if it doesn't meet all of the requirements, it's not forever. So yeah, the dread that you feel going to work, again, I don't think it's necessarily the actual going to work. I think it's just, what if I'm stuck and I never feel like I find what I'm supposed to do, and I never feel satisfied or fulfilled. Most jobs don't really do that anyways, I think, but like a full life does with different aspects of life. But there's definitely jobs that you would enjoy more, so definitely work towards that. So make a feasible plan, understand it, understand what you're going to do, be intentional, which just means don't just be a robot. Be like, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to have this attitude, I'm going to get this done today. When I get home, I'm going to do this. And then the rest of the night, I'm not going to think about anything, and I'm just going to let myself relax in the moment and let myself relax in where I'm at on this journey to get to where I want to go. Because the burnout comes from always having to feel like you should be somewhere else, and that you should be somewhere else in your career, somewhere else in your life, and that just pulls you out of the moment. And there's really no need for that. I think we want to imagine things and picture how much better our life would be in the future, but the most joy we can feel is right now. That's the only thing that's actually happening. So it's better to just make a plan, execute part of the day, relax, be present with yourself the rest of the day. That's my 2 cents on that. That was fun. If you want to have your Dear Abby questions answered, please text the number below, or you can send in a voicemail. You can also DM me on Instagram. I will put those in the podcast as well. I still have a lot more Dear Abbies, so maybe we'll do another episode like this, and maybe we'll do this every month. Just do a full episode of advice. That might be fun. Yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. If you guys liked these episodes, if you hated it, also tell me that, I guess, even though I don't really want to hear it. I hope any of my advice was good or helpful. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate any listens, any views, any support. I'm also on YouTube. You can find my podcast on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I now have videos on Spotify, so you can watch me on Spotify as well as listen. If you could leave a rating or a review on anything, that would be super helpful to get my podcast out there more. And yeah, I love you guys. Have a good weekend. Bye. 우회전 taking a ride to Jonathan Lake 눈치 보면서 들어가